Today, we're going to focus on some of the underlying technologies and IPs that we're working on and really emphasize the role of data when you're building a sustainable and scalable AI strategy. We're helping 22 large banks around the world with their data strategy, helping them to build data ecosystems and really helping them and educating them that AI is not just one thing. Even under the subset of machine learning, there are 50 different ways that you can do machine learning. There are techniques for risk assessment, there are techniques for optimization and upselling. So when you're a bank, sometimes it may be difficult to figure out how to route these types of inference capabilities to the right node or to the right capabilities in your technology infrastructure. When you look at the consumer sector, you can see that channels are becoming more predictive and context-aware. Look at Siri on Apple, Google Assistant, or even Alexa. The question for a bank is, well, how do I make my digital channels predictive and context-aware? Am I going to hire tens or hundreds of data scientists and hope that they're going to commercialize a lot of their activities in an expedited fashion and bring it to the market? Or can I benefit from a platform that hides the complexity of data unification, aggregation, synthesis, and modeling? Instead of over-relying on the IT department, I could then empower the creative units or the marketing units of the bank to bring these predictive capabilities to the market. Now, we want to look with a different lens at what we have learned so far when we work with some of our customers. When we look at the data infrastructure of a bank, it usually looks something like this. If you bring a new CRM, if you bring a new platform, you need to go and tune all sorts of other gauges to make sure everything works well, especially if the bank has a lot of legacy systems or is in the process of procuring a lot of monolithic platforms. So if that process continues, it's going to be extremely difficult to scale and sustain an AI strategy. But you may have heard about this notion of microservices and containers. That's a very good analogy to look at when you're building a data strategy for a bank. Think about a shipping company, Maersk for example. Yes, you're going to do all your security checks to make sure what's in the container, but the containers all look the same. You can ship furniture, you can ship a piano, you can ship grains. You can stack them exactly the same way, and this will really facilitate how you move these containers across the ocean. It's exactly the same analogy for the right data strategy in a bank. So, a lot of the work that we do at Flybits, we empower our customers to bring their mainframe data, CRM data, sensory data, Excel sheets, CSV files, and give them a very unified way to really create a customer logic. The notion of cross-border marketing and really building these marketplaces has been around for many, many years. The problem today is, if a bank is going to partner with a card issuer, with a grocery store, with an energy company, the last question will be, great use cases, but that's my data, and I'm not going to give up my data. Why should I? When in grad school, a student's view on data may be, okay, professor, give me the data, and I will then do my assignment. Unfortunately, that's the mindset of the majority of the analytics teams that we work with. Give me the data. When I have the data, I will go and do my work. There are lots of new capabilities now coming to the market that allow the data to be shared in an encrypted state, in tokenized states, and still, you will be able to use these models to predict, to cluster, and to associate. And that's what we have done so far at Flybits. We have empowered banks to go partner with energy companies, telecom operators, grocery stores, and the banking channel becomes that unified gateway for the end user, bringing all of these services together. But if you look under the hood, no one is giving up their data. The edge of the cloud will compute the correlation and association between the datasets, but the identifiable data will go back to the network. Let me share some examples with you. We have this ability to turn any type of data stream into a context plugin. The context plugins can come from sensors, location, bandwidth, battery power. It can come from a transaction stream. But we have also empowered the banks to go and partner with startups, with fintechs, with travel companies. And in exactly the same way, these entities will expose their data to our platform, and their marketing units or the digital channel units of the bank can now combine these use cases together. Let's share an example with you. One of the deployments we have, the bank has a partnership with a real estate tool. We can recognize if a person is starting to look for a property. We can immediately go get their credit score and other data sets that the bank has about that customer. And at the right time, the bank can engage with their customer and then give them a pre-approved mortgage offer at the right time, on the right channel. We understand based on propensity models whether we should deliver this at night or in the morning. Should we deliver this when the person is traveling? And we do all of that while the privacy of the customer is protected. That's a very important factor when you're building personalization strategies like this. Another example that I can share with you. You can tie all of your PFM data to our engine. Most banks already have a PFM strategy. You can tie it back to location, you can tie it back to travel patterns, and then you can address the needs of your customers. Let's say, when they're at an airport. MasterCard is one of our key investors and partners, and we're doing some very interesting work with them on a global basis to help their global business travelers. The other thing that we wanted to share with you is that we have also built tools to educate banks on how to use AI correctly. If you look at a bank, probably there's not going to be more than 3 kinds of things that you want to do with AI. You want to associate products with customers. You want to cluster and segment your customers into groups or products. Or you want to predict such things as purchase patterns. So these 3 key things, these 3 key strategies require very different AI capabilities. So when companies go and procure multi-million-dollar AI capabilities based on one type of machine learning, our sniff test says this is not going to be sustainable and scalable. So what we have done, part of our patent, is that we have created this orchestrator of models that enables banks to empower their analytics units, enable them to go and partner with other AI providers. And, based on the context of decision-making, we can recommend models that are relevant for this particular situation. For example, if you give a credit card to a first-year university student, the risk is a very important context. Our system understands that, and although we have not built that model, we know how to go and fetch that model and empower the digital channel in the bank to use it in their experience design. Same thing with purchase prediction, same thing for fraud assessment. And this thing that we call the Flybits inference router really empowers banks, not just to scale their data strategy, but also enable them to procure AI as new capabilities become available. The state of AI at the moment, no matter how much we brag about it, is an animal instinct. Give me a lot of data, and I'm going to do a lot of trial and error, especially if you're in an unsupervised learning setting, and then I'll try to figure it out. A lot of capabilities around AI will be invented in the future. Cognitive models that require less data, less training time. As an infrastructure owner of a bank, how do you prepare your bank to be able to plug them in as they become available? If you go and procure these very monolithic, non-scalable capabilities, the cost of scaling will be extremely high. So what we do at Flybits, we help you to orchestrate all of this data without seeing any identifiable data information. We do not believe in this notion of data lakes. We think if you co-locate the data, no matter what you do, you will make it prone to security risks. So one of the key capabilities that we have created allows you to orchestrate the data in an orchestrator, ask questions from the data rather than moving the data over. And when you get the answer, move the data back into their respective repositories. For those of you from Europe, this is something that resonates a lot with CIOs of European banks, because it addresses GDPR in a very perfect way. Even if you go on a centralized model, naturally the data will be tokenized, it will be encrypted, it follows a hybrid cloud. Your premise would be on-prem or cloud-based, but we don't see any of your data. When a company or a fintech comes to me and says, "Give me all of your data, I will come back in 3 months and I'll show you insights. And by the way, you have a new data stream. That's going to be a new project for you." That's a very nice consulting gig. It's not an AI product. So with these capabilities, we want to empower banks to really build a solid, scalable, and sustainable AI strategy. Then we empower that with our Experience Studio platform in a visual interface. You don't need to do any coding with that. You can inject models, you can inject data, you can tie it back to an intervention such as a push notification, a UI layout, a chatbot, and then deliver it to the market, either on a channel or integrate with an existing system such as a CRM or any other platform that we have. What are the things that you can do with these capabilities? We'll share some examples with you. We have a team in San Francisco that does a lot of agent-based modeling with these. We understand the spending patterns of a customer, and then we correlate that with their travel patterns. We bring all of that data together, and then we have insights like the person who tends to do this type of a shopping on a Saturday in this mall tends to have this type of an investment propensity. In order to achieve these things, you need to think of building it through an enabling platform. Not on the application layer, not on their presentation layer, but having an enabling platform that allows these types of use cases to be built by your creative minds. Another example that I can share with you is with one of our customers who is rethinking wealth banking. They came to us and said, "You know what? Affluent millennials who are our next targets are not going to pay service fees. They don't like service fees. Can we leverage your capabilities? Can we leverage network effects to create a mentor-mentee relationship between our baby boomers and our high net worth clients and the affluent millennials who are going to become our next generation customers? Introduce them." So let's say if I want to be a tech entrepreneur, the bank will use context to introduce me to a relevant mentor. And these network effects will be the driver of the new monetization capabilities for the banks. So the reason we show you this is that figuring out your data strategy will really empower you to come up with a lot of new business models that make your bank relevant and scalable in the future. You can also think outside of a kind of two-dimensional display interface. We are working with digital wallets at point of sale at the top. We can actually tell you which credit card, which loyalty program makes the most sense for that purchase. Many of us forget about the perks that we have on our credit cards. We have a lot of loyalty programs, a lot of cards. This is a case that we have empowered a mobile wallet with the capabilities that we have shown. We believe that banks in the future will be assessed on how effectively they can form data ecologies, how they can go and become the next-gen recommendation engine for their customers, not just selling them financial products, but really helping them with their lifestyle when they're traveling, when they're buying their first home, when they're thinking about a big decision. We are also seeing that data is shifting verticals. A retailer may get into hospitality in the future. An energy company may get into telecom. We think banks can be in a perfect situation to be that trusted hub for these entities. The last thing we would say is that AI is a very interdisciplinary phenomenon. When we hear that banks created a lab full of AI people, that's the job of a university. Focus more on agile, interdisciplinary teams, bring great AI talent, bring anthropology talent, bring designers, bring UX experts, and really empower these units to focus on a product. And don't forget privacy. Privacy not as an afterthought, but as a design principle in your technology.